Hello, Gobbet. Gobbet looks up from her hot plate at the sound of your approach. A smile creases her face. She raises her eyebrows and gestures at the cabin around you. You know, the Kraken has really been shaping up over the past few days. With all the work that we've been putting into her, she's starting to feel like a real home. Anyway, enough about the boat. She puts her hands on her hips, sending madness scurrying. Ready for your next lesson, or did you just want to chat? Uh, yeah, I want to talk about Isabel first. Oh yeah, well, sure, then ask away. She told me that you led her out of the walled city when you were kids. Care to fill me in on the details? Yeah, I guess I'm not surprised. Iz has never been big on padding a story with unnecessary detail. Well, you want to tell your side of the story? Seems that I've got a vested interest in the walled city these days. Yeah, sure, why not? I'll share. She taps her chin thoughtfully. To start, I guess that you're gonna need to know what the walled city was like when me and Iz were kids. She didn't tell you anything about that, did she? No, she didn't really say much, other than that you'd save her. You saved her. Didn't think so. She reaches down, absentmindedly strokes Madness's silky coat. The rat chirps happily at her caress. Well, for starters, you should probably know that the walled city wasn't always as bad as it is now. It was always dangerous, but 10 years ago it was just a run-of-the-mill slum. Still safe enough that walking in didn't qualify as a suicide attempt. Keep going. Back then, I used to play in the walled city. Rats would lead me into all of the nooks and crannies the grown-ups were too big to fit through. There was this other young shaman there that I used to play with. His name was Happy or Lucky, something like that. He followed Pig. Nice guy. Good card player. Obviously, none of this was a good idea. A teenage girl going into the walled city by herself, that's a recipe for disaster. I didn't realize any of this at the time though. I loved playing in the alleys and crawl spaces of a walled city. It was fun. Okay. Is that how you met Isabel? By exploring the walled city as a kid? Yep. Inside the wall, there are these districts. You were in one earlier where Cheng sent you after Stranger Bao, the Lotus Den. Yeah, I remember. Well, Isabel and her family lived in the Mansion District. It's a sort of holding pen for refugees from the Middle East and Africa. Basically, anyone who isn't Asian, European, or Goblinoid. It's less pleasant than it sounds. Why is it called the Mansion District? The locals named it after Chungking mansions out in Tsim Sha Tsui. Working are sort of an inside joke. The mansions are the unofficial African quarter of Hong Kong. Most of the free enterprise zones, African immigrants settle there if they can afford it. The destitute refugees, like Iz and her family, don't get to go to Chongqing mansions. They get herded into the walled city, and once they're inside, the mansion district is where they wind up. Forced relocation, huh? I guess some things never go out of style. No, they don't. And once the refugees arrive in the mansion district, their prospects don't exactly improve. The only things that most of the people in the mansion had in common were the color of their skin and the fact that they were living in crushing poverty. They don't even have a common language to speak. It was a pretty rough place. Lots of infighting, lots of gang-on-gang violence. People did band together for protection, but there wasn't a lot of hope. Everyone lived in fear of being sent deeper into the slum, towards the center. When you start getting dragged in that direction, you don't come back. Okay, sounds like a charming place. Yeah, charming. And that's where I met Isabel. It wasn't long before we were friends. She was interesting. I think that's why I let her latch onto me. The girl was smart and savvy, but cripplingly shy. She didn't belong in the walled city. No one really does, but with her it was painfully obvious. She was like a little mouse crammed in a box full of weasels. It was only a matter of time before somebody snapped her up. Or you got her out of there before that could happen. You know, that's right. More accurately, Rat got her out of there. She came to me in a dream, showed me that whatever was going bad in the World City was getting worse. The whole place was rotting from inside out, choking in bad chi and lost hope. I decided to go inside one more time. If I found Isabel, I'd offer to lead her out. If I didn't, well, she grimaces, spreads her arms. Uh, yeah, you did find her, so it doesn't really matter what would have happened if you hadn't. Thanks. It isn't pleasant to think about, especially considering what a shithole the World City is now. The truth of the matter is, if I hadn't pulled Isabel out of there, she'd probably be dead by now. Okay. I get it. Someone did the same for me and Duncan once. He nods. Yeah, I knew that you'd get it. And I did bump into her, and she did follow me, and the rat got us both out safe. So there you have it. Happy endings all around. What about the other people who stayed behind? The other shaman that you knew? They went bad. Crazy. That big shaman that I knew would wound up going full on toxic. It was horrifying. He burned himself out in an orgy of blood. Shudders. Nasty business, and not for me. Toxic? What does that mean? When a shaman goes toxic, goes bad, it's like you invert the usual meanings of a totem. That's what a toxic shaman does. Dog shamans are loyal and friendly, like all good dogs are. A toxic dog shaman is rabid. They're both dog, but they're different aspects of dog. Get it? Okay, and your pig shaman friend went toxic. That's what I heard. You don't want to know what happened to him. What he became. It was pretty bad at the end. But the locals overwhelmed him. A lot of people died. Okay, what about Isabel's family? She said that they were still in the walled city. Why didn't you bring them with you? You think that I didn't want to? She sweeps a loose strand of hair out of her eyes. Look, it was going to be dangerous enough to get Isabel out on her own. Dragging a whole family out with her would have been impossible. Why? Because they weren't like me and Iz. They hadn't grown up on the streets. They were upper-class people back in Somalia before they emigrated to Hong Kong. They were hopelessly out of their element. Even if I had managed to find them, they probably would have done something stupid and gotten us killed. I guess you made the right choice then. Damn right I did. Even if I'd managed to convince them to come with us, they would have gotten caught. The Yellow Lotus would have kidnapped them if they were lucky. If they were unlucky, the thrill gangs or the organ leggers might have got to them. It wasn't worth the risk to even try. She sniffs. Besides which, Isabel didn't want to bring her family. She wanted to get away from them as much as she did from the walled city. Never could get to her to tell me why. Okay, I guess that's all. Can we talk about something else? Ja, ask away, I'm all ears. Yeah, I'm ready for my next lesson. Yeah, she smiled. That's good. I was hoping that you'd want to keep going with this. It's good for you, and I'm kind of enjoying it too. Gobet runs a hand through the knotted ropes of her hair, a contemplative look on her face. A moment later, she turns her attention back to you. Alright, this is gonna be another long story, so I'm thinking we should take it in chunks. If you've got any questions, you can ask him along the way, and if you need to take a break, we can come back to it. Sounds good? Sure, sounds good. Great. The last time I told you about the event that brought an end to my illustrious career as a subcontractor. This time I'm going to tell you about the run that I went on with my regular team. Was this where you started running with Isabel? No. This was long before Iz hit the streets as a runner. We were friends and everything, but she was still learning to deck back then. She was good for her age, but she wasn't ready for prime time. You don't know anyone from the group that I'm talking about. They're all gone now anyway. You've had a rough career, haven't you? Yeah, I guess that I have. But I'm still alive. That's something. Puts me ahead of the other runners I've known. The truth of the matter is, as runners, dying on the job is an occupational hazard. We're disposable assets. It shouldn't come as a surprise that when we get used up and tossed as a surprise when we get used up and tossed away. Well, it was the same way in the Barrens. Here today, gone tomorrow. Yeah, you know how it is. People die, and it's sad, but there's no sense in moping about it. Okay, tell me about your team. Sure. She extends her hands so that she can count off teammates on her fingers. Madness scurries down her sleeve and perches on her forearm. Our muscle was a Hawaiian Jew with poor impulse control. Big, round guy with lumberjack arms and ringlets in his hair. He called himself Honu. I guess that he loved turtles. I don't know, street names are weird. We had a tech specialist, Ygritte. She was tall, gawky, dyed her hair bone white. She had a drone named Arlo. I followed her around like a lost puppy. She was kind of a jack of all trades, but she could get the job done. Fun at parties too. Our de facto team leader was a guy named Sui. He was a wiry troll, if you can imagine that. Probably about 2% body fat, all skin and bones. Walked with a hunch to make himself look smaller. He was a shaman, followed rats like me. Okay. Sounds like an interesting group of people. It was. But then everyone I've worked with has been interesting in his or her own way. As a rule, shadowrunning isn't a profession that attracts boring people. Okay, how did you meet that group of yours? Through mutual friends. We actually all lived together before we decided to start running as a team. There was this floating squatters commune out in Hong Bay. It's probably still out there, actually. I haven't been back in a long time, but I spent a few years living on the thing, and the rest of the team lived there with me. Squatters commune? She nods. Yep. We called it the sinking ship. It was like an enormous raft, all bolted together from old shipping containers. It wasn't the most comfortable place. I've never lived. Oh, it wasn't the most comfortable place I've ever lived. But the price was right and the company was good. Okay, I think I've got a grasp on the team dynamic. Keep going. That's alright, moving on. So one day, Sui brought us a job. He'd met a client in Victoria Harbour Bar, a rich Eastern Tiger exec. The guy wanted us to steal something for him, a shiny object. She raises her hands. I know, it's super right, but that was how Johnson described it to us, the shiny object. That was what he wanted us to get. He never gave it any other name. Okay, so what did the client tell you about this thing? He gave us a physical description. We were supposed to look for a chunk of red jade about the size and shape of an ostrich egg, with a mirror-polished surface and gold wire inlays. He said that it have paper charms hanging off of it, foot talismans, various sorcery stuff. We weren't supposed to touch those. The client also told us about the shiny object's then owner, an old hedge wizard turned entrepreneur named Kong Xiuwan. A hedge wizard? Nods. He had the whole wise old sage thing going on. He had the robes, the little hats, the kind smile. Oh, and the piece de resistance, a long wispy beard. He was mean as a snake though, and the rep to prove it. Intel said that old man Zhu Yan was keeping the shiny object in one of the warehouses. He had a bunch of them. He'd built himself a nice little empire selling magical paraphernalia through puppet vendors in the Yao Ma Tei night market. Supposedly, a good fifth of the stores in that place were on Zhu Yan's payroll. Okay, keep going. So we'd cased the warehouse for a couple of nights before the run. You know, did some recon, took some notes. From what we'd seen, we were pretty sure that Zhu Yan was keeping our payday in the vault area at the very back of the building. Security was pretty heavy though. He was paying a local triad for protection, and he kept a lot of their boys on staff. Sui was the one who came up with a plan. We'd split up outside and enter the warehouse in two teams. Team A would create a diversion. Team B would hit the vault while security was looking the other way. We'd grab our payday, regroup, and then get the hell out of there. That seems pretty straightforward. How did it work out? Surprisingly well, up to a point. Team A, Honu and Ygritte, circled around the loading dock, just like we'd planned. Zoe and I waited by the service entrance. We didn't have to wait long. A couple of minutes in, we heard this ungodly crash, then another and another. It turns out Egret had rigged into Zhu Yan's network of automated forklifts. He had 6 of them running amok in the loading dock, chasing down workers and crashing themselves into anything marked fragile. Subtle? It wasn't supposed to be subtle. He was making a distraction, remember? Honestly, CO2, you need to start paying attention. That was supposed to be a joke. I'm sorry, Gobert. Anyway, Egret's decision did what it was supposed to do. Distraction. It was what it was supposed to do. As Tsui and I watched, most of the tried guys at the service entrance abandoned their posts and went hauling off towards the loading dock. A couple guys with baseball bats stayed back, but we handled them easily enough. We slipped inside and made a beeline for the back of the warehouse, where the shiny object was supposed to be. And did you find it there? Yeah, actually it was there. Just like we thought it'd be. The door was open and everything. The shiny object was sitting there in a teak cradle, gleaming with reflected light, just like the client said. It had the ring of talismans hanging off it like a grass skirt, the paper all crinkled with age. We didn't waste any time. I reached in and grabbed the thing. It felt strange through my gloves. The jade sort of a pulse, as if it had a heartbeat. Oh, that sounds kinda ominous. Yeah, tell me about it. I wanted to drop the thing, but it was our payday, so I slipped it into my satchel instead. I couldn't get the flap closed quickly enough, the package being secure. So and I turned to hightail it out of that, and then things went to shit. Did you into more security? Whereas old man Zhu Yuan himself was standing right there in front of us, larger than life, sparks shooting out of his eyes. I'm guessing that's when he heard the commotion in the loading dock. He'd come running, well, waddling, to make sure that his treasure was safe, and as it turns out, it wasn't, because I'd already stolen it. He looked displeased. What did you do? What do you think we did? We had our backs to a wall. We lit the old bastard up. It was pretty epic, truth be told. Spirits were summoned, spells were discharged, the vault door sealed behind Yu Yan. Like something out of a movie. At one point, the old man leapt onto Tsui's back and tried to bite his ear off. I won't bore you with play-by-play of how the fight went down. In the end, we crushed him. Unfortunately, the fighting had caused some collateral damage. At some point during our showdown with Jiu Yan, the control panel for the vault door must have eaten an arc of lightning, or the blast of a powerball. It was toast, all black and melted, and neither of us could fix it. Oh, that sounds bad. It was bad. I had our payday in my satchel while we were stuck in that vault, and it was only a matter of time before the old man's remaining security guys found us in there. There was still one way out, a ventilation duct, up high in the rafters, but it was too small for Tsui to fit through. It was a chore after all. I had the shiny object, but if I left Tsui there and security got to him, well, you do the math. So here's the conundrum. I've got our payday in my satchel. The team is split. It's inevitable that more tried 49ers are going to find us, but we don't know when or how many. Egret and Honu are holding their own in the locking dock for now. I can stay with Sui to help fight off the inevitable wave of tried 49ers, but will be badly outmatched, like badly. The odds of survival won't look good for either of us. If Egret weren't pinned down in the loading dock, she could probably get the vault door open, but in order to get to her, I have to leave Tsui alone at the vault. If Zhu Yan's reinforcements find Tsui before I get back with Egret, well, she uses her thumb to draw a line across her neck. So that's the scenario, CO2. Not a lot of to work with. I know. Now tell me, what should I do? No, I think we should probably go for Egret. Could have done that, I guess. It might have worked. Of course, it could have gotten Tsui gunned down in the vault too, but in retrospect, that wouldn't have been a huge loss. Well, I mean, she could have used the object, but it was kinda funky, so maybe no. Anyway, that wasn't what I did. I saw what I thought could be a way to save the day, so I went ahead and took it. I fished the shiny object out of my bag. I still remember how the tiniest talismans that ringed the thing crinkled in my hands. I remember shrugging, saying to the hell with it. I put the thing in Soy's bare hands and told him to go nuts. It was almost like Soy had been waiting for me to pass him the thing. He seemed eager to take it. He hugged that chunk of rock to his chest like a newborn baby. Colors swarming the stone, and something changed in his eyes. Then old man Zhuyan's 49ers breached the door, and Soy unleashed hell. She pauses, frowning, stops scratching fully, and uses the hand to rub her eyes. Finally, she turns back to you. A sour look pinches her features. What went down in that room? Well, I've only seen that kind of carnage a couple of times in my life, and I've been running the shadows for years. Those giant men were turned to scraps by the end of it. Don't think I'll ever forget the sounds that they made. Clears her throat. I spent most of the fight huddled up in the corner for my own safety. But Soy let loose from the stone didn't seem terribly interested in discriminating between friend and foe. What do you mean by that? Did he summon hostile spirits or something? Something like that. Truth be told, I don't know what they were. Like I said, I was hiding, but he couldn't have done it without the shiny object. Not in a million years. Whatever they were, the rock brought them here. So what happened? Shrugs. We waited for things to calm down in the vault, and for things to go slithering away. I think that Sui had some limited control over them, which is why they didn't eat us. After they were gone, Sui gave me the shiny object back. I put it in my satchel, and we bailed. We collected the others on the way out. They were blissfully ignorant of what happened on the other side of the warehouse, and I didn't see a reason to change that. We hightailed it back to the docks and caught the first boat back to the sinking ship. Mission accomplished. Gobet looks away again, stares off into space. From what I'm told, people still avoid Yuyan's warehouse like the plague. It's supposed to be haunted, even to this day. People who set foot in the building keep turning up dead. Pretty sure I'm one of the only living people who knows why. Abruptly, her body language changes. Anyway, that's it. Lesson's over. If you have any questions, go ahead. Gobi, was there any point to the story? I'm trying to find the moral here. There was when I started telling it. I thought I was going to tell you to be comfortable with breaking the rules. I don't think I'm going to say that now, though. I'm not feeling it anymore. Why not? At least your team made it out of this run alive. They didn't stay that way for long, but let's leave that for next time, huh? I don't want to get into it just now. Okay, let's take a break and come back to this later then. Actually, let's go back to the lesson. Can you tell me about the sinking ship? Yeah, sure. Story's over, so we can get into it. I moved onto the sinking ship when I was just a kid. I think that I was 12, maybe 13 years old at the time. In the beginning, it was just me and a couple rat shaman friends, Cadmus and Malvina. They were older, but they were always cool to me. Is it typical for groups of rat shamans to congregate like that? Not terribly, no. I mean, we have lodges, same as any other group of shamans. You can usually find a few of us hanging out in those. I guess that there was just something special about our little group. Or maybe about the sinking ship. We liked it. We felt at home there. Didn't hurt that the sinking ship was well stocked and provisioned when we found it, either. And don't look at me like that. It was abandoned when we took it. Abandoned? It was a team of Shadowrunners that had lived on the thing before us, but they bit it on a job. Head and Mao heard the knock of opportunity, and they claimed the rat for rats in record time. Taking over the sinking ship wasn't an easy job. I knew the previous owners had installed traps and automated defenses all over the raft. Cat had his hands full with those for a month. What kind of traps are we talking about? Shrugs. The usual stuff. Explosives, pop turrets, the kind of thing. Cat and his sister Yasmin took care of most of it without too much trouble. The biggest problems were the scuttling charges. Runners who built the raft had installed these explosives all along the perimeter, but ripped the bottom out of the thing if it were ever seized by the police. The explosives were tricky to deal with. Cat was able to disarm them, but he had to leave them where they were. It was always just slightly uncomfortable. knowing that I was sleeping on top of a couple £100 of dormant explosives. Yeah, I guess I can't blame you here. She shrugs. Hey, like I said, it was free. There weren't really even any rules to follow, which suited me fine. Malvina was sort of the leader of our little nest, but we never really listened to her. She was always trying to play the mom card, instill a sense of responsibility into us. It was cute. She did have a propensity for getting things done, though. I have to give her that. Anyway, after a few months, other people started showing up. Squatters, homeless people, Shadowrunners, and associated crazies. As long as they stayed cool with us, we were cool with them. Eventually, it became a community. Imagine that. Oh, stranger things have happened. Yeah, sure, I guess so. He shrugs. Okay, let's come back to this later. Okay, go back. Yeah, hey, see you too. I'm sorry that this lesson wound up getting a little unfocused at the end. I'm not really sure what came over me. Hey, it's cool, don't worry about it. Well, I still feel bad about it, so look, I'll make you a deal. Your next lesson will definitely be on point, and I tell you what it's about up front. No more question and answer sessions. But how did that sound? Fine by me. Catch you next time. He waves. Next time. Okay. However, this is gonna be where we end the stream for today. So, thank you very much, anyone who came and watched a little bit, a lot, here live, maybe someone watches later as a VOD, and we are gonna continue with Shadowrun Hong Kong tomorrow. Bye bye.